Hello, this is Shen on the Grow Flow YouTube channel. It's February 2022 and we're still in a global pandemic that started 2 years ago. Some people call this pandemic the worst public health crisis in a century. Congratulations to us for continuing to live through it. But what can we do if the pandemic goes on for much longer? Strategy 1, keep track of the data. From the early days of the pandemic, I was interested in looking at data to better understand how safe or dangerous it would be to go outside my home. In March 2020, there wasn't much local data available for San Francisco. So I started collecting and organizing it and built a website to share it. About a month later, figured out how to automatically gather and process data for the entire country and shared this info on another website. For the people who subscribe to my local website, I started a regular newsletter as a way to interpret the data. Especially before the arrival of the vaccines, I looked at the charts to see whether things were getting better or worse. Generally speaking, if the case growth rates or death rates went up, I needed to be more cautious in my activities. If the rates were declining for a while, I could be more adventurous. It was like checking the weather conditions except for COVID safety. By the end of 2020, I felt adventurous enough to do road trips and air travel. For the domestic trips, I used the COVID USA site to look at the situation at my destination location and compare it against how things are in my local area. For this international trip to Mexico, I used Google Maps COVID layer to do this comparison. Open the app, tap the layers icon, tap COVID-19 info, and then zoom in and out of the map to see what the 7-day trend is for COVID cases. Strategy 2, get vaccinated and boosted. The vaccines arrived in 2021, and for me, it was super exciting to get vaccinated. I was refreshing the vaccine appointment websites and did not delay in getting both doses of the new vaccine. As soon as I was eligible for the booster, I got that as well. Recently though, vaccinated and boosted people have also been getting the Omicron variant. This wasn't what we expected because weren't the vaccines supposed to end the pandemic? There's this quote from Winston Churchill: "Perfection is the enemy of progress." The vaccines are not perfect, but they're definitely very good. Available research data shows that people who are not vaccinated have a 5 times higher chance of getting COVID and an even higher chance of getting severely sick or dying from COVID. This set of charts illustrates the gap between the vaccinated and unvaccinated in New York City and Seattle. In both of those cities, there's clearly a difference in cases, hospitalizations, and death between the unvaccinated and the vaccinated. Research data coming from California also confirms that vaccination and boosting are effective. This table with data as of January 16 show that Californians with booster shots have the lowest risk of getting COVID. Vaccinated and boosted people also have the lowest risk of being hospitalized and dying from COVID. According to this CDC data from November 2021, if you want to reduce your risk of dying from COVID by 68 times, get your vaccinations and boosters as soon as you can. Strategy number 3, upgrade your protective gear, masks. Face masks are not perfect, but they are effective against getting infected and spreading infection to others. Athletes wear helmets and pads, so it does make sense to me that we also wear protection during a pandemic. I've been collecting many types of masks with different levels of comfort and protection. I have the cloth mask, the surgical mask, the KN95 mask, the N95 mask, and I also got this P100 mask that looks like it would fit great in an apocalypse movie. A research study in California saw that the N95 and KN95 masks lowered the risk of testing positive for COVID more than cloth masks, surgical masks, and definitely more than no masking. From experimenting with these different masks, I discovered that the tightest masks, which filter out more virus particles, are also the least comfortable to wear. The surgical masks feel the most comfortable to me, but while Omicron is still an issue, I am defaulting to these KN95 masks. I have big boxes of the KN95 masks and the N95 masks. I feel safer having these mask options. Strategy number 4, have testing options in mind. Most of us don't need to test ourselves regularly for COVID. I don't think it's super fun to take a COVID test when I don't have any symptoms. However, I have tried rapid tests and PCR tests before visiting older relatives. I also know where to go for in-person COVID testing. And if you're traveling internationally, a COVID test is required to get back into the US. Another video on this channel goes into more detail on rapid testing and compares it with PCR testing. Even if you don't need to take a PCR test or COVID test today, educate yourself on the different testing options and know how to get easily tested when you do need it. Here is my at-home PCR test kit that I'm keeping around this year in case I have symptoms. I plan to use it before it expires in November 2023. Strategy number 5, be mentally ready for new variants that change our assumptions. A lesson we can learn from the pandemic so far is to expect the unexpected. I ended my regular COVID newsletters in June 2021 because in my mind, the pandemic was over. Time for in-person gatherings to celebrate. The vaccination rate in San Francisco was relatively high. I felt safe to go to in-person concerts and movie theaters, and in general was in the mindset of a post-pandemic life. The first inkling that the pandemic was still something we need to think about was right after the Thanksgiving holiday in November. The news started talking about this new variant coming from South Africa. I thought the news was overhyped. The Delta variant had happened, and as a vaccinated person who also got boosted in October, I was not really worried. As we can see from the charts from December and January, the COVID case counts did go up dramatically because of the Omicron variant. And if someone had gotten COVID before and recovered, they could still get COVID again in new variants. So whether our goal is to avoid severe sickness from COVID or to avoid getting infected at all, it can be good to reset our assumptions of what future variants might look like. When the data and conditions change, our assumptions might need to change also. Strategy number 6, find fun things to do that are also safe. Last but not least, we have to remember to have fun during a pandemic. Huge indoor parties and raves are not the best ideas when COVID cases are high, but we can be creative in finding safer ways to do things that we enjoy. Many people discover new hobbies, such as baking bread, playing pickleball, solving jigsaw puzzles. Others were launching new businesses from home. The number of new business applications in the US jumped to record highs in 2020 and 2021. It's also possible to travel safely. You don't even need to travel far. There are new places within your own city that you can visit, including outdoor parks and spaces that might be new to you. A change of scenery can be very refreshing. And if you're not feeling comfortable about the level of risk you might be taking, you can always wear more protective masks to reduce the risk or opt out completely. For example, how important is it really to do indoor dining at a restaurant this month instead of in the future when the risk is lower? Is it actually better to meet people on virtual calls instead of in person? I hope you enjoy watching this video on 6 strategies to survive a longer pandemic. We've never asked for this pandemic to last so long, but we also have a lot of ways that we can protect ourselves and still do fun and interesting things. Please click the subscribe button to see more videos from this channel. Thank you.